Every book tells your story, complete with endings you haven't lived yet. How do I know? Because I spent last week in one such book. What? Here's how it happened. It was a Tuesday like any other, or so I thought. I was heading to work when I passed by my favorite used bookstore. Suddenly, I had this urge to go in, and it led me to a narrow aisle stacked floor to ceiling with books. There I found a volume whose title intrigued me, The Atlas of Lost Stories. Its cover had no author and its pages were filled with indecipherable symbols. Intrigued, I purchased the book and went home. That evening, as I prepared for bed, I opened the book. To my surprise, the first page displayed a mirror. Confused, I stared at my own reflection, but then noticed an inscription above my image that read, "Everything you have ever read, everything you will ever read, and everything you are reading right now." Startled, I flipped through the book and saw images from fictional worlds I'd explored in my favorite novels. Each page seemed to contain a piece of my soul. Every book I'd ever read reflected back at me. Then I realized with a jolt that the book itself wasn't the reflection, but I was the reflection within it. In a flash, I found myself in the very world I'd seen in the book's images. Before I could react, I heard a voice echoing through the cavernous space. "Welcome to the library that reads you back, where every book reflects a facet of your being." As the voice faded, I noticed towering shelves stretching into the distance, each holding countless books that seemed to hum with energy. Above me, an inscription proclaimed, "Here all stories converge and diverge, reflecting realities both seen and unseen." I wanted to escape, but every path was blocked by a wall of books. Panic started to rise within me, and then I remembered what the inscription had said about realities, both seen and unseen. Maybe there was a way out if I looked beyond the physical limitations of the library. Closing my eyes, I focused on the unseen, imagining a way out. Suddenly, a book in front of me shimmered, revealing a doorway. Stepping through, I found myself in a vast meadow, bathed in sunlight. A gentle breeze caressed me as I looked back to see the library recede into the distance. But my moment of relief was short-lived. From the corner of my eye, I saw a figure emerge from the library. It was a girl about my age, with flowing red hair and eyes that sparkled like distant stars. She introduced herself as Iris, the guardian of the library, and explained that I'd been brought here because I was a reader. Curious, I asked her why, and she replied, "Because every book tells your story, even those you haven't written yet." Puzzled, I followed her back into the library. Iris showed me how the books within shifted and changed depending on my emotions. When I touched a book on courage, I saw reflections of times I'd shown bravery in my life. When I interacted with a book about love, memories of heartwarming moments flickered within its pages. I felt a sense of connection to these books, realizing that they were a part of me, just as I was a part of them. As I continued exploring, I came across a section filled with blank books. These represented stories I hadn't read, characters I hadn't met, and adventures I hadn't embarked upon. Yet, when I opened them, I could see glimpses of my own reflection within their empty pages. Iris explained that these books contained possibilities, potential realities, shaped by the choices I would make in the stories I read. I realized that by reading certain books, I could influence who I became in ways I'd never considered before. Determined to understand this concept better, I decided to read a book that had been calling to me since I entered the library. The Atlas of Lost Stories, the same book that brought me here. As I turned the first page, I found an inscription that read, "This book holds the key to your journey through infinite realities." With that cryptic message, the book began to unfold, revealing a vast map filled with swirling galaxies and interconnected paths. Each galaxy represented a different world, and the paths between them symbolized the connections between stories and characters. Suddenly, I saw my own story reflected on the map. It was a thread that ran through all the galaxies, touching each world and influencing its unique narrative. I realized that every book I'd ever read had contributed to shaping my story, and in turn, my story had become a part of theirs. But the most astonishing revelation was yet to come. As I traced the paths connecting the galaxies, I saw that they led not only to places I'd already been, but also to ones I hadn't yet discovered. The book showed me endings I hadn't lived, choices I hadn't made, and futures I hadn't seen. Some endings were filled with joy and triumph, while others held sorrow and loss. They were all a part of my story. Overwhelmed by the weight of this knowledge, I turned to Iris for help in understanding it. She told me that the Atlas of Lost Stories wasn't just a guide to other worlds. It was a reflection of my own soul. Each galaxy and path represented a facet of my being, my desires, fears, dreams, and regrets. By following these paths, I could explore the many versions of myself scattered throughout the multiverse, but it came at a price. For every story I engaged with, whether through reading or living it, another faded away, lost forever. My choices mattered, and they shaped not only my own story, but those of countless others. With that realization, I knew I couldn't stay in the library forever. I had stories to live. But before leaving, I wanted to find a book that would help me navigate the choices ahead. Iris led me to a hidden alcove where a single book rested on a pedestal. It was bound in leather, its pages filled with celestial charts and cryptic symbols. As I reached for it, Iris warned me, "Be careful with this book, for its wisdom is vast and its power immense. The choices you make will have consequences, so tread carefully." Taking a deep breath, I opened the book and began to read. Its words echoed with ancient power, guiding me toward understanding the interconnectedness of all stories and the importance of cherishing every ending, for it led to a new beginning. With newfound clarity, I closed the book, knowing that my journey through the library had come to an end. It was time to return to my own reality and live the stories that awaited me there. As I stepped through the doorway back to the meadow, I looked back at the library one last time. It seemed to shimmer and change its form as fluid as the stories it held. I knew that the library and its countless tales would always be a part of me, just as I was a part of them. Back in my own room, holding the Atlas of Lost Stories, I realized that the library hadn't just been a dream. It was a reflection of the boundless worlds within my own mind. Every book I've ever read has left an imprint on my soul, shaping me into the person I am today. And in turn, my experiences have become part of those stories, enriching them in ways I never imagined possible. As I continue my journey through life, I'll carry the lessons from the library with me. I'll cherish the connections between stories, embrace the endless possibilities that lie within, and remember that every ending, no matter how bittersweet, leads to a new beginning. For it's in the tapestry of our lives, woven with threads of joy and sorrow, triumph and loss, that we find the true meaning of existence. It's a reminder that every story matters, every ending has a purpose, and every beginning holds the promise of a new adventure. So, what books have left their mark on your soul? And which stories are you eager to explore next? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.